The Senior Rehab podcast is sponsored by Great Seminars and Books. If you need high-quality geriatric con ed that's worth your time and money, check out Great. Owned by the living legend Carol Lewis, Great offers courses and products created by recognized leaders in geriatrics. Learn the most effective techniques for diagnosing and treating your patients. Just go to seniorrehabproject.com/great and get $25 off by using the code SRP25. The show is also sponsored by you, the listener. Go to seniorrehabproject.com/join to find out how you can help steer the direction of this movement and join our monthly meetup. Once again, that is seniorrehabproject.com/join. Hit me!
Welcome to the Senior Rehab Podcast.
The podcast for rehab clinicians that want to better serve older adults.
And now, your host, Dustin Jones.
Hello, friends. Welcome to the Senior Rehab Podcast. Thank you for the download. I am very happy for you to meet today's guest. But first, I want you to meet my lovely co-host, my good buddy. You all have met him 2 times now, Jefferson Musgrave. How are we doing, Jeff?
I'm doing excellent. Here you go.
Where are we?
We're at West 6 Brewery in Lexington, Kentucky.
Have we been here before?
Yes, we have. For my maiden voyage on the podcast. It was amazing.
We've been kicked out of our VIP room, and now we're in amongst the regular people drinking some beers, so no more VIP access like last time.
Yeah, I miss that steam sound every 10 minutes or whatever. That was amazing.
I know. So distracting. Well, friends, listeners, today we have actually a member of the Senior Rehab Project private Facebook group, Key Pack. He is the director of SPTA Relations for the APTA Student Assembly Board of Directors. He is not representing the Student Assembly on this show, but he is representing himself and his amazing haircut, and he's such a stud. But he is also first year at Somerset Community College for the PTA program. He's currently working in acute care inpatient hospital in Lexington, Kentucky, where my wife works as well, and is very interested in all aspects of physical therapy. Keith, welcome to the show.
Thank you very much. Thank you for having me.
I'm excited for this, man. Anytime I get to record an interview with someone that is in Lexington, I get an excuse to have a beer with them. So, cheers.
Cheers.
What are you drinking?
It's the Pay It Forward Cocoa Porter.
Okay. The
Really
motor
good.
oil. Motor oil,
Oh,
basically.
yeah.
What am I drinking, Jeff?
It's
ale?
a strong ale. I don't know if it's American or English, but I have heritage in both, so I feel okay about it. It's okay.
All right, so let's get into this. So Key, you've got quite the resume building already with your long titles after your name and all your many positions. But you're a first year PTA student in Somerset, Kentucky.
Represent.
How's that been so far?
It's been, as cliche as it sounds, life-changing, really. Just so much has happened in just the past year, and being at Somerset and being in the PTA program, it's really been, just of all the other classes that I've taken, I actually have, as of now, I think 109 credits. I was a business management major prior to being accepted to the PTA program.
Wow.
And this program it's no joke.
Yeah.
Like I was saying earlier, working as a PT tech has definitely helped me not study as much, but I can see how difficult it is going to be for next semester, starting a week from today. But it's going to be super intense, and just from talking to the second years, it's just unlike any other class I've ever taken, any other program that I've been in. But I love it at the same time because it's something that I'm interested in, something I get to actually put my hands on and actually learn. And really learn about a career that I'm about to basically embark on for the rest of my life.
Yeah.
So
I want to dive deeper into PTA school, but let's kind of take a step back. You mentioned you're a PT tech,
yes,
in an acute care setting.
Yeah.
How did that start? Is that something that you're like, I want to try this, or you're how'd you get into that?
Oh man. So I started volunteering. I was trying to getting a job in the hospital is difficult as in itself. So I actually volunteered in the emergency department. Yeah, as just helping out, like clean beds and stuff like that. It didn't get me a job. I was actually a window cleaner.
Man, I bet you saw some crazy stuff.
Oh yeah. It's funny enough because I'm actually scared of heights, so it was just destined not to work.
Yeah.
So So I actually I met a friend, and she actually got me a job as a SWAN, which is basically like a clerical CNA. I did like secretarial work, and I worked as a CNA as well in a coordinator care unit.
Okay.
So I got a lot of crazy experience. I got really comfortable with like code blues, taking care of patients on vents and stuff like that. And I actually didn't even know what physical therapy was until one day I noticed a PTA and a PT Tech.
You can name drop if you want to.
Her name is Megan Rader of the PTA, and Mike Guillory.
Okay.
He's actually a fellow classmate of mine. He's a PT Tech as well, and he's a first year at Somerset Community College in the PTA program. Okay. And I was like, what in the world are they doing to the patients? They're like messing up all the lines. They're messing up all the beds. So I went over there. I was like, what are you all doing? And they said that we're physical therapy. We're just getting patients up, getting them moving. And they explained what they did. I was like, what is physical therapy? And that kind of like drew me into that area. So I actually had to wait, I think, 3 months until I can get a job before I can actually switch over to the PT Tech position. But that's basically how I got started. It goes a little bit farther than that of how I got into physical therapy, but that's basically how it is. I just pretty much just like it fell in my lap. Yeah. And I kind of just took out running for it.
And that's quite the unit to be on, especially
man.
as
man,
that makes me nervous just thinking about it.
It was pretty crazy. I don't know how many. I've done CPR, I don't know how many times. Yeah, but it's been rewarding. Saved lives. So
okay.
Yeah, so I'm actually good friends with Megan. Like,
really?
What a great entry
no
point.
way.
She was on our Bourbon Chase team for the last few years.
Oh my gosh! Really?
Yes.
No.
Yes.
I was a part of that team.
Yes.
Okay, that's who that was.
That's a connection. We're playing Small World. I'm the big fuzzy guy that wears the dress.
Oh my
That's awesome. Yeah.
I was there. I was volunteering at the finish line. So I think I might have saw you.
Yeah, he was wearing the
would
dress.
be hard to miss.
Yeah.
He had probably had drums or some type of musical instrument that we were playing.
Yeah.
My mind is blown.
Yeah,
right
folks,
now.
that was not scripted, as you can probably tell.
Yeah. I was like, wow.
Oh my gosh.
So you're a CNA. You saw the tech and the PTA come into the room.
Yeah.
And you're like, wow, I want to pursue this. And then you're working as a PT Tech. Once you were in the role as a PT Tech and working with the physical therapist, the physical therapist assistant, what was your perception of that line of work once you were kind of more involved?
It goes. I wanted to do a little bit more of a preface on this.
Okay.
What really drove me towards physical therapy in general was that actually 2 years ago I hurt my back. I think more specifically what I learned now is it was the multifidi muscle. Mm-hmm. So I was just doing too much and using improper form while I was squatting, and I basically I wrecked my back. I couldn't walk for like a month and a half. I went to a clinic. They gave me anti-inflammatory meds and pain medications, and it wasn't working.
A PT clinic or what?
No, just like a regular emergency clinic.
Okay, yeah.
Like a UTC or something. And I went to 2 different ones, and they basically, the second one gave me stronger pain meds and more intense anti-inflammatory medicine. Mm-hmm. And I stopped taking it because it wasn't working. It wasn't solving anything. Mm-hmm. So I went online, researched, and thought, how do I solve this? What can I do to actually, solve this pain, rehab myself to get better? And I was so passionate about, I learned about doing stretches, doing small exercises, kind of like taking it easy and slowly developing strength and lessening the pain and actually walking. And I realized that, looking at Megan, the PTA, and Mike, the PT Tech, and I was like, whoa, there's a profession for this. So that's why I really took off, and I really I just dived right into it. Yeah. So that's why I got so interested in it.
Yeah. That's awesome.
So good experience, but were there any attributes or did it change your perspective of how you work with your patients to see them come in? I mean, like you mentioned, like, what are you doing? You're messing up all this stuff.
Oh, yeah.
Because we're kind of notorious for that in physical therapy. We come in and cause what we call order and through a matter of disorder. But what in that experience made you think, like, man, I really want to do that? I mean, I know you had a personal experience, but it's much different in the acute care setting.
Yeah. Pretty much, I felt really comfortable in the acute care setting. Just working in the coordinator care unit, And I felt like it was an easy transition where I was comfortable with working as a PT Tech in that particular setting. So that's why I chose that one as well.
So in your experience in that environment, from your perspective, could you tell us? We'll go positive and negatives that you see in a PT-PTA relationship. So no, that wasn't a good way to phrase it. Let me think about this. What are some good attributes that are required for a good PT-PTA relationship? Let's start there.
Some good attributes.
Yeah. And I say that, I'll let you think about that. I say it because, I don't know about Jeff, but for me, it's a relationship that I have little experience with, and I don't know how to do it, to go about it in the best manner. To work as a team, to really develop that camaraderie and that collaboration. I think part of it is, I'm in home health, so I don't spend all day with, my PTA. It's phone calls and texts, and I may see them once a week. So it's a struggle. So I'm just wondering, from your perspective, what are some just good attributes of a good working PT-PTA relationship?
I think really it's a really culmination of a few things. And at least things that I've seen is that the team that we have, the acute care hospital that I work at, it's not to have an elitist attitude as a PT, because you're supposed to supervise the PTA. You're not supposed to be in charge or really be their boss.
Okay.
So just understand that the PT and the PTA is, in a sense, below because you're supervising them, but they're not inferior to you. And just having that pace and setting that tone for the PTA will create better vibes and a much better chemistry, because essentially they're your coworker. Yes, the roles are different. That you're supervising them. Their scope isn't as wide or broad as the PT, but essentially they're still your coworker. The same that you would treat anyone else. The housekeeper or the CEO. You treat them all on the same level of respect. Just because you're technically above them in respect to a PTA or even like Kentucky Law Practice Acts or whatever in your state, they're still a coworker. Yeah. They're still a person. They're not inferior.
Right.
So that's a really, really big thing.
That was good. What would you say, Jeff? Because I know you have a lot more experience than I do in that relationship. So what would you say to that?
I think it's a hard thing for me to figure out too, where I want to be involved in the care as much as I'm needed, but it's one of those things like it's hard to find that space where it's like I want to give you space as a professional to treat what you see and manage the relationship. But I mean, honestly, I think it's kind of awkward to cut in like in a month, like 30-day, we're going to do this reeval, and it's kind of like taking a temperature, but you've not been there for the relationship. It's kind of weird. So I actually have a lot more experience just managing the relationship with a tech, and I have been very fortunate to work with several very high-functioning techs that have been in the healthcare industry for a long time that have taught me a lot of things just throughout my career.
Yeah.
So I think my PTA experience is also kind of limited, but I like what you had to say about that. And I feel that way. Anyone that we interact with, we're all people just trying to do a job and live life. And I think seeing everyone on an even playing field, I think that's really important. Not to micromanage that or to, it's definitely not a supervisory with air quotes. But it's not. I'm not your boss. I think the PTAs that we work with, there's one that's she's got over 25 years of experience.
Amazing.
I mean, just incredible. I mean, like, I need to ride along with her and learn some stuff,
Yeah, Laura Miller, I'm going to name drop. I've been super impressed with her. I mean, I agree with you. So let's have both of you answer this. So, I mean, what you said that was awesome. Now, as a tech, other than what you previously mentioned, what do you, like some of the PTs that you work with that you really like, you really respect, what are some of their attributes that you think is critical to a good PT tech relationship? And then Jeff, I'll let you speak to that after.
I think really having the trust, knowing that I'm confident and competent enough to know what to do with my role, what's within my scope of my particular job, and just understanding that when I go into a room and I'm helping you, if you inform me of what's going on, what we're going to be doing with this patient, what to look out for, then I'm competent enough to be able to look out for certain things, what to do, what not to do, and be open to criticism. Or if you tell me to do this or not to do this, that you can trust me, that I'm there for you, and that you're going to be there for me if something happens. But yeah, so just trust that I'm competent and confident enough, and it's hard not to tie it back with Lawson before. I guess something different is that maybe because I'm in school, but some of the PTs, a lot of the PTs, some of the PTAs I work with, they use a lot of certain things that like patient cases that I'm not familiar with. They use it as a teaching moment.
Okay.
So not be condescending with the tech, because obviously I don't, if I wasn't in school, I wouldn't have any prior knowledge, just on the job training. But just instead of saying, "Hey, don't do that," and like yelling at me, just saying, "Okay, hey, you shouldn't do this because of this, this, and this." So I'll know later on, instead of just yelling at me and I never learned from it. So I think a lot of the PTs that I work with and PTAs I work with have been really good about teaching me and being more of a mentor than just being a micromanaging dictator.
Okay.
So I think that's super, super important.
Yeah.
Especially building a good chemistry with your tech.
Awesome.
Yeah, I think those are some really great notes on those relationships, and I can say that I've been fortunate with the last tech that I worked with very closely. She was very interested, very involved. We both cared about our patients, and because of that, we had lots of clinical discussions. She was really a sponge. She wanted to learn all that she could, and we tried to we really thought of ourselves as a team. Just like you said, it's like if you can tell me what you're looking for, you've got an extra brain, an extra set of eyes in that scenario. But to violate the respect by just no, don't do that. I mean, that's never going to be helpful.
Right.
And I know there are times where things are tense and like stuff comes out, but I think another thing you said that's really valuable is knowing those boundaries. Like, you obviously understand your role very well. Like, I know what I can and cannot do, and I think communication above all is so important. And I applaud my tech on that once again. Is if she got into a scenario and she was helping me, say, bring a patient back, and they said something that kind of alarmed her, then she'd be like, "Hey, we need to come, I need you to talk to them and figure out what's going on before we do anything." She was clued into lots of red flag things, whether it was their mood or coming in kind of irate, and she was good at diffusing a lot of those situations. But medical things with swelling and DVTs and helping me pick up on drastic changes with patients. I mean, she was an invaluable asset for me. But I think knowing the scope of your role and recognizing the value and talents of the people that you work with, know what they do well with, where their strengths and weaknesses are, so you can really come together as a team and communicate well. I think those are big keys to the successful relationships I've had in the past.
I mean, with you talking about your previous tech like that, you got to drop her name.
Colleen Crabtree is amazing. She was like my work mom. She had my back in all scenarios. She was my cheerleader. She protected me, and she did so many things. She helped me market to physicians and new front office staff, and she just amazing person. I was really truly blessed to just get to work with her.
Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah, that's awesome.
So Key, I'm fascinated that you're in the coronary care unit. I mean, because I just remember my rotation through acute care, and that place was crazy.
It is. I'm not gonna lie.
So I'm interested to hear your just your perspective of interdisciplinary communication. And do you feel like that hospital, which will remain unnamed, are they doing a good job in the sense of developing that teamwork, that people are treating each other as equals and trying to serve the patient? Because I know that can be challenging to do in a big system with lots of different players, physicians, PTs, OTs, all these different supportive staff. What do you say to that?
I think that it's pretty good, but I think that there's also a lot of improvement that could be made. I know that the physicians understand that PT is invaluable to getting the patients out of the hospital and getting better.
Yeah.
But I think that communication could always be improved. I know that in certain cases, the PT that I've been with, that we've actually treated a patient and they're going to discharge a patient, that there's been instances where they said, like, hey, this patient can't go home because it's just not safe. And they've actually taken that into consideration, which I think is awesome. So I think communication can be improved with different healthcare professionals, just by education. I think a lot of some of the other employees don't know, exactly what we do or are capable of.
Yeah.
So I think it's also, our part to do that as well. Just constantly educating, and constantly telling, like, hey, we can help you all out by doing this, or that. So we're not just getting your patients up, messing up the beds, and the lines messed up. But we're actually, helping your patients, feel better and preventing pressure ulcers and all different kinds of stuff.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's been a theme on the podcast. There's been a few physicians on, and they've all mentioned that they're pretty unclear on what physical therapy actually does. Some know better than others, but I mean, just speaking from my wife's formal education or residency, the exposure to us is very minimal. I mean, next to nothing. I agree with you. We have to play an active role in educating them, whether it's in medical school, if we could squeeze in, an already jam-packed curriculum of just getting in front of them and be like, hey, this is PT, this is what we do, or just really pursuing residents when we see them, be like, hey, I'm a physical therapist, here's what I do, here's how I can help you, serve your patients, because it's not just going to happen on its own. They're trying to keep their head above water for 7, 8, 9, 10 years, depending on what they do. But Jeff, what's been your experience in that interdisciplinary communication, other people's perceptions of what we do? Because I know you've interacted with a lot of orthopedic physicians. What's been your experience with that?
I think to some degree, educating different disciplines about what we do, depending on the setting they've encountered a physical therapist. I have people that I would see from family practice that would come down, for example, that would have back pain, and they'd be like, I was in the hospital and you guys just got me up and walked me. What do you know about my back?
Right.
Shouldn't I be going to a chiropractor?
That's a good point, yeah.
And they're good and bad of all things.
Right.
Not that that's a bad thing, but we don't do a good job of showing what our skills are and what we can do. And depending on the setting you saw a physical therapist, people may have no idea what we do. As far as with the orthopedic docs I've worked with, I had a really old school doc that I worked with for a short time that had a practice across the hall from me, and he sent one-time only visits for a home exercise program so he could say PT failed so he could inject us. And he was an ortho guy that did total joint replacements. So I've seen that extreme where it's kind of like, would go over and talk to him and be like, hey, I think I can really help this patient. He's like, all right, cool, keep him. But he's like, I guess you guys are as good as anyone else to hang out with them while they get over this, if they're going to get over it, and then I'll just operate if it doesn't work out. So I've seen that extreme, but I've also seen the extreme of the orthopedic docs on the cutting edge with total joint replacements that want PT early. They want it aggressively. They know that we can be there to help with mobility, to prevent falls, to prevent rehospitalization. We can be eyes and ears for them if you have good communication. It's like, I can really help you with your outcomes.
Yeah.
And I think when they recognize the value that we have, if we can prove our value to them, that we're not going to do ridiculous things. Like, there's a reason there are certain protocol standards, and they vary a lot. So to respect the personal space of an orthopedic doc to say, hey, you put the pieces, parts in there, you saw what you saw, I'm going to respect that, but then give you the freedom to do what's appropriate. And I think those relationships can be built effectively just having the common goal, having the patient in common. The other thing about that orthopedic practice in specific is that they're very patient-centered, they're outcomes-driven, and they've seen the value of the difference in good and bad physical therapy, and it's huge for the patient, for their outcomes, and that directly affects them, bundled payment or not.
Right. I actually wanted to comment on that. At the acute inpatient hospital that I work at, we actually have a physical therapist that actually teams up with an orthopedic surgeon. He actually takes care of all of his patients, like day one, total knees and total hips, which is awesome.
Yeah.
So I think that it could be a model for other orthopedic surgeons. Say like, hey, his patients are doing so much better because of this, this, and this, and he has teamed up with a physical therapist. He has the knowledge base. He knows what he's doing. The results are there.
Yeah.
Can I shout him out?
I know exactly who you're talking about. I'm talking about the same person.
Ben Murphy?
Yeah.
Oh, really?
And the doc.
Really?
Small world.
What? Welcome to Lexington, Kentucky, folks.
That's right.
The country's biggest small town.
Wow.
That's great that I could talk about the attributes of him and you knew exactly what position I was talking about.
Yeah, oh yeah.
Go ahead and do it.
Yeah.
Drop it.
He's awesome, seriously. I'll work with him, and
you can go ahead and invite him on the podcast, by the way.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. I'll totally do that.
He's on my list.
All right.
Really? I'm pretty sure I can probably talk to him.
Okay. Tell him I'll buy him a beer.
Right. He'll definitely be.
He's a bourbon fan.
Okay, I'll do bourbon.
He does an awesome job. I mean, as the tech that I work with him, he does an awesome job. I mean, if he has, doesn't matter how many patients he has, if he has a strict time limit he has to spend with the patient. Education is a huge thing with him because he doesn't want those patients back. Taking his time and showing them the right exercises, like what to do, what not to do, not just going through the emotions. He does an awesome job of actually showing them what they're supposed to do and why.
Yeah.
I mean, and that's why his doc loves him. I mean, his doc he sometimes he gets frustrated with his job because sometimes the patient loves too much, but he loves his doc so much because they have such good chemistry and they have such good teamwork because they crank out patients like it's no other.
Yeah.
And they do such a good job at it at the same time. Which I mean, if I ever choose to do what Ben Murphy does, maybe I can be just like him. So.
Yeah. All right. Well, I need a refill. I think you all may need one here in a little bit. So let's take a break, get a refill, and we'll come back. I want to talk about we talked about educating what physical therapy is to the interdisciplinary team. What is a physical therapist assistant? What's different from them compared to a PT? And then we'll jump into your involvement with the APTA. So let's get another beer.
Cool.
All right, folks, we're back. I got a refill, but I got the Simcoe IPA. Jeff, you got
Strong Ale.
the Strong
number
Ale.
2.
He is a responsible one. He got himself a glass of water. We got waters too, but you're still on your first beer, which I probably should be as well. But. All right, so where were we? We were, PTA relationship.
Yep.
All right. So if someone asks, what does a PTA do? How do you answer that question?
A PTA, they basically follow the plan of care that the PT sets out. So we basically, we do the treatments, we do everything except for the reassessment, the evaluations, and all that. What a lot of people don't know is that PTAs can actually change the short-term goals within the plan of care, as long as they're not changing the long-term goals. So yeah, that's basically our scope. But just more so that I'm learning in my PTA program is that we're more than just like a glorified tech. If you utilize a good PTA, they can do more than just whatever you write down the plan of care. They're not just like a physical therapy robot that just carries out whatever you want them to.
Right.
They have the mind of their own, and they can suggest certain exercises or certain treatments for the patient that they think that might be best for them.
Yeah.
So I think that they're more than just a physical therapy tech, and because they have such a vast knowledge base that the physical therapist is invaluable to a PT. If they can realize that, then they can get so much more done, and they can have such better patient care.
Yeah. How would you answer that, Jeff? What does a PTA do? Why are they different from a PT?
I mean, I think you just nailed it. Like, how
He
do I
did,
follow
he did.
that up?
Well, you're emphatically shaking your head. So
I
I
was. No, it's good stuff. I mean, I think that's the key is I've worked with PTAs in different settings, and the reality is, I mean, that experience is so valuable, and that's something I learned, like, coming out of school, not only, like, regardless of title, like experience with patients or different scenarios. I mean, that could be your saving grace with a patient that it's like, I'm new out of school.
Yeah.
It's nice to wear your humble hat and say, hey, I don't really know anything.
Yeah.
I don't know what's going on right now. Can
Right.
you help me out?
Yeah.
Because the experience means so much being through those scenarios. I mean, for example, in the stroke unit, the variation in the presentation of a stroke or someone with a stroke with dementia and an amputation that maybe had an anoxic brain injury during. Like, are you going to walk into that as a new grad and do the assessment and think that you have any clue what that patient's going to look like in 3 weeks, 4 weeks?
Yeah.
I mean, you better be, hanging your hat on someone else's holder. I don't know.
Yeah, I would agree with that. That's been my experience too, especially in all the settings I've worked in, because I've been in, outpatient. The PT I was working with was an absolute boss, and just really was the only reason that I was able to keep that job for a year before I got fired. And then, in Columbus and home health, my PTA Linda, shout out Linda Harrison, was freaking amazing. Has been doing it for a while, and I was always deferring to her, like, hey, what are you thinking? You're in there, 2 to 3 times a week. What should we do? What's working? What's not working? And then now with Laura Miller, who's just an absolute all-star. I mean, my gosh, just the depth of knowledge with that experience is invaluable, especially for someone that's only like 5 years out of school.
Just babies.
We are such babies. You don't know what you don't know.
That's right.
And I'm learning that every freaking day.
The longer you practice, the more you realize you don't know stuff.
Yeah. It makes me honestly ashamed of myself whenever I came out of school, which I've talked about on the podcast several times. But yeah, I'm just not the most humble person. So Key, let's shift gears a little bit. Okay. You are, you're working as a PT tech. You're going to school. And then you are also involved in our professional organization, the American Physical Therapy Association. You're involved with the Student Assembly. Why in the world are you doing that?
Mainly because I've always been a leader. I've always taken initiative. I'd say a large part of it was because I wanted to know as much as I could about the profession. And I felt like being a leader and just really taking every opportunity I could and just diving into as much as I could, it would allow me to learn as much about the profession in more ways than one. And just another reason was for PTAs, it was kind of a hard decision for me between PT or PTA.
Yeah.
And for PTAs, I feel like they don't get enough recognition in certain areas, and with certain PTs, or even just not even just like certain PTs. I should say just more of like just the community, just more of the APTA. And I think it's not necessarily just our the way that we're viewed. I think part of it, shoot me if I'm wrong, but I think it's kind of our own undoing, because if you just look at the straight numbers, it's pretty dismal.
Yeah.
And I feel there needs to be a voice. If no one's going to do it, I'd love to be able to be that guy to just say, hey, we're just as important as PTs. We're a team. We're not, boss and subjugate. We're a team, a PT, PTA team. And increasing involvement is my number one priority, because I think I've heard from a lot of PTAs, even from some of the program, not program directors per se, but I've heard that that PTAs don't feel as if they're important enough to be able to participate or be able to be involved. I think that's sad. I think that so many people have just passed that over and just say like, it is what it is. Well, it's not. That isn't what it should be. That isn't how we should, think. So if we can change that mentality, I think that'd be great. And I'm not the kind of person to wait around for that to happen. So.
Yeah. I like it.
Yeah.
What's been the biggest surprise for you since being involved in kind of, the big professional organization?
I think the biggest surprise was how important this position was. So I actually applied in the summer before I even started classes. Like
really?
Right after,
go-getter, man.
Yeah, right after I got accepted to the program, I was like, I heard about this position. I was like, hey, why not? Why not give it a shot? And there's no way I'm going to get elected, but at least I tried.
Yeah. It was the face, man. It was the face.
It was definitely the hair.
And actually, I got chosen as the one of the candidates on the slate right before classes started. So I still didn't even know how big of a deal it was until I actually went to the National Student Conclave in Miami, and I was like, "Oh my gosh, what have I got myself into?" Which was crazy and eye-opening, but at the same time it was so positive because I was like, "Oh my gosh, I can actually make a difference," and I'm like a first year.
Yeah.
So like, even though I had no idea what's going on, academically, I've had like so many different jobs that. It's crazy the more I talk to the other board members, like, yeah, I used to do this, I used to do that. But all of those have really culminated, to a skill set that I've really broadened into this new position. So, I think it's pretty cool. Like, I mentioned before, I've dealt with a lot of, like, my fears, like being a window washer. I did that for, like, 4 years and helped my wife put her through school while I took some time off of school.
Hold on a second. Congratulations, by the way.
Oh, thank you.
He's a newlywed. Just got back from his honeymoon.
Jamaica month.
That's awesome.
I completely broke your train of thought, but I wanted to make sure I said that.
Oh yeah, thank you very much. It's
keep going.
It's still crazy to me.
Yeah, so you're breaking your fears, overcoming them.
Yeah, and I've done everything. Just where I took that time off to help my now wife get through school. We had gone through some tough times, and I kind of had to work 2-3 jobs, and I've done everything from working in back of house in a lot of restaurants. I used to sell vacuum cleaners.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So I used, that salesman part, wash windows.
Didn't you do some door-to-door when we were in physical therapy school?
I sold paint.
Really?
It's
a tough job.
You
get a lot of doors slammed in your face.
Yes, I was the devil to lots of people. So yeah, I sympathize with you.
Thank you. At least someone does. But I've really, brought a lot of that stuff that I've done into this profession, into this new position. And I'm really excited. I really love what I'm doing. And now that I understand the kind of like the scope of how powerful this position is and how powerful the Student Assembly Board of Directors is, now we can change the direction of the Student Assembly and, like 1/3 of the APTA membership. And it's pretty crazy to think about.
Really?
Yeah.
1/3?
Yeah. I think we're at 28,852. I don't know. Something like that.
Insane.
So
you have a platform here. So not a huge platform, but I think it's pretty incredible. There's going to be probably 1,500 people that are listening right now. And a lot of them are students. I wouldn't say the majority, but there are some students that are interested in geriatrics. Shout out to all you all. What would you say to them in terms of why should they be involved? Why should they care about our professional organization? What would you say?
So I would say to those that, how do I phrase this? Kind of use a little bit of my salesman's technique.
Sell me a vacuum. Go right ahead.
So,
pull me in. I couldn't help it.
Do you care about your profession? Number one. That's yes. Okay. Do you think you can make a difference? No? Well, I think you can. I think you have a voice. Everyone does. It's everyone coming together that we can change the direction of our profession, to change the direction of our association. if you love your job and you care enough about it, and you hear about locum tenens and the state compact for physical therapy, especially in our state, for us to travel across state lines and stuff like that. That wasn't just like our, a large part of it was our association, but it was a fair amount of people, professionals, PTs and PTAs that had a voice that said like, hey, we want to change this, so locum tenens happen, and so, just having a voice and saying like, I'm not going to sit around. I'm actually going to do something about this. So getting involved is huge. So I think if you're listening, if you think that you can't do anything, you can't change our profession, and you don't have a voice, that's not true at all. It's so far from the truth. If you think that any one of the student assembly board of directors is too intimidating to talk to, that's far from the truth. I know. I mean, we're students too. We're not this elitist group that we think we're better than everyone else. That we're just going to make all the decisions for you. No, our job is to listen to all the students in the student assembly, all 28 or almost 30,000 of you all. That we have to take everything that you all are saying into consideration and represent you all. It's not just us making decisions based on our own preconceptions and our own guiding morals or whatever ideas that we have. It's us listening to you all and changing and forming in the way that you all want it. Yeah. Because that's the only way that that's why we have a position. That's why we have a job in the first place. Yeah. So feel free to reach out to any of us. I've met them on countless occasions, and they're all super cool. Yeah. Super cool people. One of them, his name is Ron Peacock. If that name isn't enough, then,
with your hair and his name, my gosh.
We're going places, folks.
Seriously, just reach out to any one of us. Yeah. I've gotten emails from people still in high school, and wow. Just ask. I had this one girl, gosh, I can't even remember her name, I feel bad, but she just asked me like 10 questions, and I took my time answering every single one of her questions. Every single email I get, I take my time. It's not like one or two, word answers. I take my time, read through everything. I think about it, I formulate my thoughts, and I actually, write a nice, well-formed email. Yeah. So I don't care who you are. I don't care if you're still in high school. I don't care. I still have people in my class that are, almost 40 years old or above that, right. They have kids. Doesn't matter who you are. Doesn't matter if you're a student or not. Yeah. Reach out to any one of us. And also, if you're a student, you have a voice. If you're a PTA student, look at me. I'm a first year PTA student, and I'm on the student assembly board of directors
in Somerset, Kentucky.
Yeah, Somerset, Kentucky. Yeah. So you can make a difference as long as you believe that in yourself, and if you have the initiative to do it, I'd say go for it. Yeah.
I think, I agree with everything you're saying. I think it's what's really cool, especially now, even like when Jeff and I were in school back in 2008 to 2011.
If you kids remember that.
I know many of the people listening are just like, shut your mouth. Say, for example, social media was not a big thing. Now, I can literally send a direct message to Sharon Dunn, our APTA president, and she's more than likely going to respond to me within 48 hours. Because it's happened. And that's insane to me. These people that are making decisions or representing our profession are so open to listening for the most part and interacting that it's pretty cool. And I don't think that's been the norm per se. I think a lot of that was just technology, honestly, but it's just really cool to see, and it's very empowering to say, oh my gosh, that person who's making these decisions heard me. It gives you a little hope to get involved and make some decisions there. So let's ask this: how has social media impacted your trajectory? Has it played a role in
huge. It got me on this show. Literally,
that is true.
I think I just sent out a tweet, and Dustin kind of hit me up, and I was like, "Oh, you're from Lawson." I think we talked a little about was it bourbon or something. I don't remember what it was.
Man, the listeners are gonna think I'm a straight up alcoholic. It was bourbon.
Yeah, and I mean, like, I think this is my third conversation that I've had that I've generated just from Twitter alone. That I don't know these people. I mean, yeah, you might be from Lexington, but I came across you just from Twitter. Twitter hasn't been a huge part of my interactions prior to physical therapy, but once I heard how much of a presence it was in our profession, I mean, I definitely, I was like, why not? Why not? I met someone who goes to Eastern State Tennessee, ETSU, Eastern Tennessee State University.
Yep.
She was a PTA, or she is a PTA that's getting her DPT right now, and that's just because I was asking people like how anyone else in PTA and the transition is getting a DPT. What is it? And we actually spoke on the phone for like an hour, and she was giving me advice, and that was just off Twitter. I'm not a huge presence on Twitter, but I mean, I think that's awesome. Just be able to connect with other people, getting advice, over the phone, or even now that we're meeting face to face on this podcast. That's huge. I mean, if you don't think that, you can meet people on social media, or it's just a crack of, of whatever, or that's just like a small bubble or a circle, it's not true at all.
Yeah.
I literally just put a tweet out there, and it just kind of hit me up.
Yeah.
And that, to me, it still like blows my mind.
Yeah.
So,
and listeners, I'll put a link to his profile in the show notes. Twitter's a powerful drug.
Oh my gosh.
And this is where I'm at now. Is that I'm sure many people struggle with this, but in terms of attention, in terms of utilizing my time, I should say that. I feel like I've had a healthy and unhealthy relationship with the social media, so I'm starting to find those boundaries. And a lot of people that I interact with have the same sentiment. They already have enough going on in their lives. They have kids. They have busy jobs. All this stuff. Like, why would they add this to it? And I'm starting to be sympathetic to that for sure. But it's like how I feel like there is a way to control, the time that you're using on these social media platforms to be useful and not wasteful, and to not let it, take over. I'm going to put an innocent plug for the Senior Rehab Project Facebook group because Twitter's been amazing. I love Twitter, but the Facebook group has been unreal for me seriously. Because as a home health PT, I mean, Jeff can attest to this now. We're on an island. We don't interact with a lot of people. Like I've got Laura Miller, the amazing PTA, and other PTs that I interact with maybe once a week. But if I have any question, I just go on Facebook, boom, put it there, and I've got people that wrote the research articles responding to
It's pretty incredible.
Yeah. It's unreal. Like it's such a cool resource. It's just a really it's free. Like Twitter's free, Facebook's free, and you have access to really, really smart people. So, I mean, if you can do it in a controlled manner to where it doesn't overtake your life, I don't see many reasons why, not to do it. And what are your thoughts, Jeff?
Well, can I add something real quick? Yeah. I was actually just on it today, just kind of like just browsing around, and I just happened to stumble back upon it. And if you're, a new home health PT, or even if you've been out for a little while, I loved your article on like the tools, like everything that you have in your car, in your bag, and on your phone. I was thinking to myself, I wish there was someone out there for whatever setting that you're in that just kind of like outlines everything for you that you should or shouldn't have, and like you just did it. Like I looked through the entire article, like, and I thought that was incredible. And if that's not incentive enough, like if you could just look at that article if you're new home health PT, man, that's some awesome stuff. And it really showed that you took a lot of time to put that together, and that's so invaluable to somebody. I mean, I just cannot stress it enough. Like I was
the sales guy's coming out. I did not pay him to say that, people.
I can say from a personal note, I thought he just did it for me, but I guess other people have benefited too. But it's been very helpful for me, like starting home health, to have some kind of idea, like how do I organize myself as far as scheduling patients, what are tools that I can use to easily get my phone, like somewhere where I can use it, navigate, and make phone calls, because you're constantly on the phone for something, whether you're receiving calls, making calls, sending text messages, or navigating from patient to patient. But it was very, very helpful for me. So I don't think I ever told you thank you, so I'll do it now. I'll give you a public thank you, Dustin Jones. I don't think I did. I'm pretty ungrateful.
Yeah, I don't know, there's some things in life you're like, man, I wish I would have had this back then, and that was one of them. And it was because I wrote it because Jeff was starting with our home health company, which if people want to hear that story, go back to Jeff's podcast episode that we did here at the same brewery at West 6. But there wasn't anything clear, like, all right, you need this, and this. Here's how to use this. You want to do this and not, just all these little things that I learned the hard way for sure, because I was just thrown out to the wolves.
Yeah, that's what I hear.
That just like a simple blog post could address a lot of those things, so people don't learn the hard way, which is the story of my life, learning through mistakes and failures. But all right, well let's wrap up. Let's transition to just some quick questions. Your answers don't have to be quick. Okay. And I'm interested to hear who you answer these. If you don't mind me asking, how old are you right now?
26.
You're 26. Okay. So let's say professionally.
Okay.
What would you tell the 22-year-old P-Pack?
Oh man. Don't do it. No, not physical therapy. I'm sorry.
And tell us where you were at 22.
Oh my gosh, even just 4 years, 5 years ago now. I had no idea what I want to do with my life. My father owns some, now it's just one. He owns a sushi restaurant in northwest suburbs of Chicago.
Okay.
And we had planned on me, kind of transitioning into that role and helping him run that restaurant.
So is it still open?
It is still open.
Give the name, because there's several Chicago listeners.
Starfish Sushi in Lincolnshire, Illinois.
Okay.
Awesome place.
All right.
Highly recommend it. Not biased at all. And he's just been doing it for so long, and I didn't know what I wanted to do, and I felt like it was kind of like what I should be doing. So I love cooking. I think he does an awesome job, but it just wasn't for me, and I wish I would have known about physical therapy a lot sooner. Obviously I could be done with school, money, but I feel like I could have been doing some great things, back then at a much younger age. But at the same time, having that salesman job, and I'm kind of glad it worked out the way it did.
Yeah. So I'm currently preparing for a presentation at CSN this year, and I'm creating a presentation with Karen Litzy. She does the Healthy, Wealthy, and Smart podcast, and I'm collaborating with her on the internet. And I'm reading research articles, gathering them, and it's been, I feel like I'm back in school.
Oh, man.
And it's been a struggle. So as a student, what have been your most invaluable resources in terms of apps or websites or software that help you learn or organize all the different things that you gotta, worry about or test on?
I use Fantastical 5, I think. It's a calendar app. Helps me keep track of all my tests and meetings and stuff like that. But another really good one is Essential Anatomy 5.
Say it again.
Essential Anatomy 5.
Okay.
It's a little pricey. It's on the iPhone, and it's also on the MacBook App Store. It's pricey. I think it's like $25 on the iPhone. It's like $50 on the MacBook. But literally, you have the entire body, and you have a button to go from, for instance, just muscles, to go from very superficial to very, very deep. And it has everything lined out for you. It even has a quiz portion on there, so it quizzes you on different parts of the body, like skeletal system, muscle, lymphatic, nervous system. It's huge. I can just, study anywhere I'm at. Like, I'm at lunch at work, I'm at home, on my way to class, because we have an hour and a half commute. so we get a lot of study time with our carpool. That's huge. If not anything else, that's probably one of the bigger things that I use.
Okay. How do you think that would apply to like patient education?
Oh,
like I've got piriformis syndrome. Show me where my piriformis is. You like vaguely gesture to your butt. You know, I think this could be a really good tool to use practically.
Oh yeah. Patrick Lloyd, the PTA, he was actually the one that showed me this app, and he said because he used it not only because he went to my program at Somerset Community College, but also because he works in an outpatient sports physical therapy clinic. And he said it's exactly that. He uses it to educate the patients. He says, okay, your piriformis is hurting. Well, this is where it's at. These are the muscles around it. This is what you should do because these muscles' origin point is here and the attachment's here. And it's like, whoa, I'm actually seeing it, so I have a better, more concrete idea of what's going on in my body. Yeah. So I shouldn't do this because this, and this, because what I was doing before was not only hitting that muscle, but it was also, damaging these particular muscles that are around it, and I wasn't really doing anything without my HPs before. So yeah, it's huge for patient education, and he uses it all the time. Yeah, so definitely that app.
I think that made me think of Matt Danziger's. He has a patient education binder. I can't remember if he published it on PT Brain Trust or modernmanualtherapy.com. I'll put a link in the show notes to it. But it was just a binder of different graphs, different charts, different articles that educate patients mostly on pain, on how to understand pain and how we kind of view it now as it's very different than most patients perceive it. And I feel like that app could be very, very helpful with, in regards to that, because especially like back pain, a lot of people probably seen their the spine model in the doctor's office with the big bulging, red jelly bean coming out of the disc that scares the crap out of them. Then we could probably give them a little more accurate perception of things with that app.
Favorite patient question is, does it turn red like that? Favorite. I did a lot of spine care.
That's
my
awesome.
Favorite question.
All right, so last question. Are you going to CSM by chance?
I am.
You are?
Yeah.
All right,
yeah.
beers on me there.
Sweet.
This will air after CSM, but write that down. Beers on me. So let's say we're at CSM. Okay, let's say you have every student in the room, whether they're physical therapy or physical therapy assistant. What are you going to say to them if you had their attention for about a minute?
If I had their attention for about a minute.
Yep. 30 seconds to a minute. You don't have to be strict. What would you tell them?
I would just say, I would just reiterate, if you want to get involved, there's opportunities out there for you. You just got to look. And if you can't find what you're looking for, ask one of us on the board. We are so open to any student getting involved. We just had our project committee chair selection, and we're going through our project committee member selections right now. I cannot stress this enough. I'm a first-year PTA student. I applied before I even started classes. So, the opportunity's out there. So, if you want to do something, it doesn't matter, that you don't know enough about the profession. You can still take action. You can still do something and make huge strides and huge changes in the direction of our professional association. Just showing up. Just show up. It can be anybody. It can be you listening. It could, any of the people that email me. You just need to show up, show interest. That's all you got to do.
I love it. Show up, people. Key Pack. You can find him on Twitter at.
It's actually KeyPac2, KYPAC2.
Okay, link will be in the show notes. Thank you, sir, for having a beer with us. Appreciate your perspective and just sharing your story. It's a pretty cool road that you're on. Honestly, just hearing it, it's pretty awesome. So I know you got bright days ahead of you for sure in this field. Anything that we can do to support that, let us know. But if listeners have any questions, hit them up on Twitter. Jeff, closing thoughts? Anything that comes to mind?
Respect professional boundaries. PT, PTA. relationship, tech relationship, all those you come in contact with, even playing field. I think those were wise words from Key.
Yeah, good stuff. Good hair.
Amazing hair.
All right, thank you all for listening.
Hitman. Thank you for listening to the Senior Rehab Podcast. I appreciate your time, and if you enjoyed this episode, do me one favor. Share it with one other person that would benefit. Thank you. If you want to see the show notes or find more episodes, just go to seniorrehabproject.com. And until next time, my friends, do not forget to stay funky. The Senior Rehab Podcast is sponsored by Great Seminars and Books. If you need high-quality geriatric con ed that's worth your time and money, check out Great. Owned by the living legend Carol Lewis, Great offers courses and products created by recognized leaders in geriatrics. Learn the most effective techniques for diagnosing and treating your patients. Just go to seniorrehabproject.com/great and get $25 off by using the code SRP25. The show is also sponsored by you, the listener. Go to seniorrehabproject.com/join to find out how you can help steer the direction of this movement and join our monthly meetup. Once again, that is seniorrehabproject.com/join.